So, yeah.
I don't know how you teachers can maintain a dialogue, motivational. I would have been talked out a long time ago. I'm glad.
Yeah. Well, it's hard. I mean, we do a lot of, at least I do a lot of breakout rooms. So I try to pose them with a problem and then send them off to a breakout room. But we were actually physically in session for about 5 weeks. And that was actually, it was really, I was like so grateful to be back in the classroom, but it was really hard because it was hybrid. So I had about half of my kids were at home doing e-learning and about half of my kids were present. And so we were doing labs and we were trying to videotape stuff, and it's double the work. I mean, it's really,
Oh
really
yeah,
challenging.
it's putting undue pressure and so on like that. You don't get the, time to decompress during prep period or go down to the lunchroom and, talk to some other, humans your age.
Yeah. And I mean, part of like, I think being a good teacher is you connect with the kids, like you
Yeah,
have
yeah.
a relationship, and it's hard to establish
Okay,
those relationships
I,
through a camera. So you
I
can do
think
it.
we should start
Sure.
now. We've got 10 people, and I expect none of them are our teachers that spoke at our Wolf Lake Watershed Advisory Committee meeting back in November, and I expect them to join us as well. But yeah, I have. But I just kind of want to give a background to this for those who were not at that November meeting. In the last session of that meeting, we had a discussion or presentations by 3 of our fellowship recipients. And it was after their presentation during that discussion that we decided that getting together and talking about teaching nature in a virtual setting that posed some problems. And I thought we had a good discussion. And it was at that time that we decided to reconvene and just discuss this issue further, and to possibly invite students. And Jane, I think you've invited some of your students today, and also maybe to ask for scheduled speakers in the future. And so all that, I think, will come up during this morning's discussion. I think it's best maybe if we just went around and everybody introduced themselves, and I'll introduce myself. I'm Michael Bowes. I'm the executive director of the Association for the Wolf Lake Initiative. I never taught a class in my life, so I shouldn't be a main player in today's discussion. And then Wayne, why don't you introduce yourself?
Okay, Wayne Schimpf, retired CPS biology and urban horticulture science teacher, currently secretary of the Caretakers of the Environment International USA Foundation, which is linked to a global network of students and teachers in well over 100 countries that are trying to teach nature to their students virtually by engaging in various projects that they do as a self-guided option in the community, and also working with as chairman of the Conservation Committee for the Boy Scouts of America Pathway to Adventure Council that includes all of Cook County, Lake County, Indiana, and Will and DuPage counties, and that these scouts that are doing in nature activities for scout activities are also some of your students in the classroom, so that the scouts can become an experiential outreach arm if you are fortunate to have any scouts, as students in your program. So, so that's two of my hats that I wear.
Durs? Durs?
Hi, everybody. Is my speak? Yeah, I guess my speaker's on. I'm the Greenways Director with Open Lands and have participated in Michael's conferences every year. And Open Lands offers a couple opportunities that possibly could connect in the schools virtually. Tree keepers being probably the primary one that I think of. But if we could probably speak on streams and rivers and aquatic biodiversity, and we could certainly help link you into, many other speakers if that's where this conversation goes to. Thank you.
Marianne?
Hi, I'm Mary Ann Kozlowski. Currently, I'm the volunteer co-steward at Eggers Woods, which borders the northern portion of Wolf Lake. Before becoming steward at Eggers, I was a steward for probably about 23 years up along the North Branch. And I cut my environmental teeth on work days along the North Branch. I'm also a tree keeper, and for a few short years, I was a steward at a small park on the northwest side in Chicago, which the Chicago Park District wanted maintained as a natural woodland. So that's my background.
Okay, Colleen?
Oops, there we go. Hi, Colleen McVeigh. I'm an environmental educator with the Field Museum. And we work in the Calumet area and have a variety of initiatives in the Calumet region that I'm hoping to tell you about.
Adam?
Good morning, everybody. My name is Adam Kessel. I'm the program coordinator for the Forest Preserves of Cook County for the southern end of Cook County. So I'm looking forward to hearing from everybody today.
Hey, Jane Healy?
Sorry, I have to unmute here. Okay, so I'm Jane Healy. I teach at St. Francis de Sales High School. One of the luxuries of teaching at a small Catholic high school is that they let me teach what I want to teach. And so I have a huge environmental focus with all of my biology. I teach biology, AP biology, physics, and anatomy and physiology, although I'm not doing anatomy this year. I can also teach chemistry. My background is I've actually have done a lot of stuff with ecological stuff in the neighborhood. First off, I'm an 18-year bike commuter in Chicago, which I think is something to be proud of. Although unfortunately, I had to buy a car last year because riding my bike from Blue Island to the east side, it's just too gnarly riding my bike on 103rd Street. Any of you who know that stretch past Stony Island know what I'm talking about. So I now I actually drive a car partway to work and then I bike it, but whatever, we make our small victories. I have a background, I'm pretty strong in botany and actually did 4 years at the Morton Arboretum. I volunteered for 3 years at the Deer and Audubon Society in Connecticut, doing wolf walks and things like that, which is near where I used to live for a while. And I was a site steward at Whipperwood, which is part of the Calumet area, which is down over on Halstead and about 130th roughly. But that I did that for about 10 years, maybe about 11 years. I'm not doing that now. It just was a little too much with all of my other commitments. And I have been really doing a lot of stuff. All my freshman biology kids, we do terrariums. We do an ecosystem in the beginning of the school year, like on day one, and then they keep them alive and they do measurements and do science with it and, try to balance the, the precipitation, the water cycle and all that stuff. And those were hugely successful. So last year when we went on our COVID leave on March 13th, and then we didn't come back, right, for like months, those terrariums, 70% of them survived over the entire summer. Nothing, just sealed, closed ecosystem. So the kids have done a really good job with that. And I think I've just got the Nature of Nature book. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but really trying to get these urban kids into green spaces. And so last year we did a ton of field trips where we went to Wolf Lake and we went to Big Marsh, and we spent time on the lakeshore. And we're trying to do an initiative this year where we're going to be doing some with the EPA, the federal EPA, and the Rise Illinois. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, where they're doing studies about community outreach with kids on environmental issues, and it has to be a water focused issue this year. So we're trying to talk about the rising and lowering of the lake levels and how that's affecting communities and ecosystems in the area. So that's my background, trying to bring the love of nature to kids.
All right, thanks. Gloria?
Hello, everyone. I'm Gloria. I work with Friends of the Forest Preserves, and I work with volunteers in the Calumet region, including Whistler, Kickapoo, and Bovian Woods. Don't really have an education background, so I'll be happy to hear everyone's ideas and see what I can contribute today.
Okay, Lisa?
Good morning. I am Lisa Soa Downs, and I volunteer with the Cub Scout Pack 773. Have done that for more years than I can count. And we have a very strong pack that does a lot of environmental things. We plant a lot of trees. We do a lot of cleanups. Over the summer, we met socially distanced outside, so we were able to keep doing our pack meetings out at Wolf Lake. We continued to hike socially distant. Once the numbers began to climb, we now are on Zoom and trying to do as much as we can that way, encouraging activities and encouraging families to get out and hikes, as families. So that's who I am.
All right, Richard?
Richard had sent an email saying he's having a hard time making a connection.
Okay, then Sherry.
Hi, I'm Sherry Meyer, and I am an urban and environmental geographer, and Michael Bowes has kept me involved with Wolf Lake since 1999, so I'm glad to be here and meet all of you folks and awed at the work that you're doing.
All right, Sherry, thank you. So let's get started. The main subject I think we want to discuss today is just how we connect students, youth with nature during the age of COVID. And it's just kind of this would be a continuation of the discussions we had in November. And also then we want to discuss aids that would help us to do that. But Jane, why don't you start us off in just talking about some of the ways that you've dealt with this problem?
It's been a challenge. We've done, like I said, and we were hybrid for a while. So I had my kids in session for, like I said, about 5 weeks, which was like more my shtick. One of the hardest things this year for me, at least, is that we were told that we can't use books because we could not make the assumption that our kids were able to get books because of the whole start of the school year with COVID. So that means that, like, you're generating everything for all your classes. I have 3 preps, thankfully not 4 like I had last year. And it's just a burden, right? It's coming up with content that is engaging and that is truly science-based, that's inquiry-based, really trying to think outside the box. I've tried to do as many demos and things as I can live on camera and not like in a very intimate way. Obviously when we were in session, I tried to do labs almost every day because I knew that we were going to go back on e-learning. So I tried to pack in as much as I could. So we did a lot of activities, it worked out probably to be about 2 a week in each class, that were very hands-on kind of, and a lot of them, I felt so bad in physics. I was just making them do stuff so they could do it hands-on so that we could refer back to it then when we were going on e-learning. So some of it, they didn't even really know like the actual setup of what they were doing. They were just kind of going through the actions and kind of observing stuff. I feel like inquiry-based, that's where they're really pushing us with the next generation science standards. And that's where a lot of the emphasis has been for science teaching in the last few years, which I think is good. I think they're really, really good standards. But that means that there has to be an open-ended component of it, right? Like we're not supposed to be spoon feeding them a lab. The idea is that you give them ideas and you might walk them through part of a lab, and then you have to open it up and let them explore. And you have to do it in sort of some supervised say. So you kind of give them kind of some suggested materials to work with, and then you kind of like oversee what they're doing. And that's been really hard. It's been hard to do that. I've been trying to send home little packs with kids. So like for physics or like for AP bio, we've been doing membranes. So I sent home all these bubble making supplies so they could do things at home. But again, it's not as good as being hands-on. By this point in the year, I would have taken 2 field trips already with all of my regular bio kids, and we would have gone to all these ecosystems, and can't do that. So I've done some things where I've kind of like gone out and videotaped stuff and, just trying to do little things, but it's hard. It's really hard to make it meaningful. I mean, I think when you're in class and in session, there's ways you can make it very powerful. We can go out and do a field trip, and you can kind of see, this is my classroom view from my classroom. We can go in the front yard or the backyard of the school and do some stuff. We can walk. The school allows me to walk kids to nearby Calumet Park. But I don't know. It's tough. It's tough to make it really touch base with them and make it meaningful. Again, posing challenges, showing them models and throwing them to work at models. I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with POGLs, which are like process-oriented, inquiry-based learning. And they will oftentimes do a lot of visual models, like paper models, but still really thoughtful and inquiry based. And I feel like those are really good because there's graphing involved, and the kids are looking at data and they're trying to make sense out of it and then trying to use that to inform their knowledge. So, but it's been hard, like no hands about it. Like I really wish that we were in session, and I really wish that I could, this was a normal year, or we could do what we can. I do think you can. Sometimes the other thing we've done is you can kind of give kids like a treasure hunt kind of type thing. Have them like, go outside and do a quest in their yard or their neighborhood, like a photo quest where they have to like find different things, and that can kind of get them out into nature. But you can't do that. Like you could do that maybe twice a semester. Like I don't think you could do that like all the time. I think it's relevant if you're talking about changes of seasons and, looking in the turf of your backyard or trying to do stuff. But, again, engagement, it's really hard. And some kids are having connectivity issues. So that's a piece too. So we have, even though we've worked really hard with kids, it's hard when kids are at home. A lot of kids, some supervision, lack of supervision, I don't know, like I'm just kind of throwing out a lot of the negatives. Like this has not been the best year for teaching science, but we're still doing it, right? I'm sure I'm not the only teacher who's like fighting the fight to get kids engaged and, learning and active. So I'll shut up.
Okay, does anyone have suggestions for Jane?
I'll chime in, but only just to reinforce some of the things she said. I work with mostly elementary students, although we do have a high school component that my partner at work deals with. But we've been doing the same thing where we created nature kits that are aligned with the curriculum that the kids are going to do. So for example, the 4th graders are supposed to sprout and observe a seed. So I just assembled 170 packets that include, magnifying lens, a baggie, a paper towel, a couple lima bean seeds that they can, with directions in both languages, that English and Spanish, so that they can sprout the seeds and do the activity at home. And then the teachers have parents pick that up at the school. And then with the photo quest or the treasure hunt, what we've done, particularly at the middle school and the high school level, is we linked that to iNaturalist and we created an iNaturalist challenge. There's actually I forget who, but someone's having a challenge to do the most observations during COVID. But we have the kids compete against each other to document the most species, or you can look at for invasive species or native species. You can have categories of animals. Of course, insects, not so much now, and birds are super hard to get because, you know, they don't hold still long enough for photos. But we've been using the Seek, which is iNaturalist for younger kids. It's a little easier to use. So 3 through 5 have been using that. So those are a couple of the things we've been doing.
Other suggestions?
Yeah, this is Mary Ann. Jane, well, you know, Eggers is due south of your school. And if you're using Calumet Park for environmental studies, once the forest preserve, you know, gets past COVID, because it is essentially shut down, Eggers is a great place to take your students. I don't know if you've ever done that.
Yeah, we have done Eggers. That's like when we're trying to do like Northern Hardwood Forest, that's where we go because that's our closest one. So
wonderful.
And we did last year, we were down there a couple times trying to do investigations. You know, we were actually talking about deer and how deer are overpopulating and how they're over browsing down there. So we spent some time talking about that. And of course,
Thank you.
we ran into deer. So
Yeah. Oh yeah.
the kids were like, "Oh, deer," and I'm like, "Yeah, kind of not a good sign that we're seeing them at 10 in the morning, but that's okay, you know." So
yeah, you
right
see it
here
all
for
the
the
time.
trail. Yeah, and I was down at Eggers Woods last weekend. I was riding my bike down there, but yeah, I would, and I have to say, like, we didn't do anything formal. I just took the kids down there, right? Like I didn't know if they had naturalists available down there. And I have had that with naturalists, like at Wolf Lake and at Big Marsh. We've actually had people that have interacted with us through either the park district. Actually, it was through the Chicago Park District that really worked with us. They were really
Actually, I'm going to put a plug in now for Colleen, because Colleen actually runs through the Field Museum, the KIMBY, the Calumet is My Backyard program. And we get students. That has been one of the great programs for Eggers in terms of introducing students from grade school through high school at Eggers Grove. And that includes, Colleen, has anything been adapted for COVID? And because I know there were 3 sessions where the Chicago Public School rep came to the classroom before the students went out into the field. Is that still going on, or?
Yeah, so I don't actually run Kimby. That's my colleague, but I do the little people from 3 through 8. But the way we've adapted is, one, we've created these nature packets for teachers. We've been doing remote professional development for teachers to help them with the lessons, and then urging them to get the kids out. We were also trying to do, we were circumventing Chicago Public Schools.
yeah, no, you do what you got to do.
We were having our Saturdays in the woods or Saturdays in the park, where we, you know, had parents sign up with their children to come to events. So we had one that was pretty successful back in late September, where we had 2 parents and 5 middle schoolers show up for a bird walk with Chicago Audubon in Washington Park, because one of our schools is over there. And then I was trying to get some kids to come to Beaubien for a variety of, we had some stewardship events, and we had a community group come out with electric scooters and bikes, and we had Friends of the Chicago River were doing cleanup. So we wanted to get the kids out for that. And then I would show up and, you know, do lessons that were linked to the stuff they were doing in the classroom. But we had a couple days of bad weather and a reschedule. And so that didn't work out. And now the forest was closed, but that's an option, you know. And I think, like, also if there's, you know, for the people who are in the scouting, if there's also, you know, scouting groups, that's another way to get the kids out to do things in addition to just have them explore, you know, around their house or nearby and take a walk. So that's been helpful. And then our Kimby group is they're doing we created an internship for 20 kids to do they're basically meeting online and then doing small group work in natural areas. But I actually don't know what the status is. I mentioned that's on hold since we've slipped into the surge. But you know, if things get better, then they can meet on, they'll be meeting on Saturdays. And it's kind of the same thing that I was doing with the 3rd through 8th graders, except it's for the high school students and they can come on their own. They don't need parents. So.
I was going to jump in and make a suggestion, Jane. My team, we do some virtual programming where we're transitioning out of our citizen science program that we're doing in the spring, summer, and early fall. But we were looking at we did crayfish monitoring with the kids. So we kind of set it up like a news broadcast. Someone would be presenting from home and have the PowerPoint and share the screen, and then we cut it to the naturalists in the woods. And it was a lot of fun. It kind of broke up the virtual space. So if you wanted to, I mean, of course, we're kind of rolling with the ongoing changes, you know. A lot of the stuff that we're doing now is self-led. So our interpretive hikes are now going to be signs out along the trail that people can read instead of having a naturalist there to kind of interpret the space. So we're just kind of rolling with the changes. But that's something that we could certainly offer you if you wanted to think about doing something virtually at Eggers. You know, the last one we did was actually on land use at Dan Ryan Woods. So talking about the way that the Forest Preserve acquires land and what we do with that land and why. And there's just been that huge hydrological work at Eggers that has allowed for the drainage of some of that wetland, which has brought back some amazing bird species. So we're out there looking at birds a lot, but you know, we can kind of explore where you're at with the kids and ways that we can integrate some sort of like naturalist in the field. I've been working on this character of being like the bumbling naturalist because I fell once trying to pull crayfish traps, and day one I only had about 10 8th graders, and after they said that this guy fell, we were like maxed out on our second day of students on the Zoom. So you know, just being creative with how we try to share that information. But definitely shoot me an email, Jane, or anyone else if you have a group. You know, we can do what we can from the field for sure.
It's like that part about getting kids, like the kids love it. Like now that we're back, we're doing fully remote. For a while we were teaching remotely, but we were still at work. Now we're closed, like we're the buildings and no one's coming in. So even that has changed things because at least I was in my classroom and I could like, you know, pull models out or like, you know. So I've been doing like field trips to my backyard. We've been talking about chickens. We've been talking about like the population of you know, English house sparrows that have been invading our chicken space, and how my chicken feed is now like creating this burst population. So we're doing population dynamics and, you know, trying to do that sort of thing. But like I would love to do more of that. And I will also tell you, like, I feel like the kids like soak that up with a sponge. Like that is so meaningful to them. Like the kids who went on these field trips and who were doing these walks, like they still talk about that like a year and two later. They're like, oh, you know, remember when we were at Wolf Lake? And, you know, like they have these stories. And I feel like, you know, it's always amazing to me how many kids are so close to these resources, and a lot of them have never seen them before. They've never been in them. And I don't know if that's just because their families are scared or, you know, whatever the story is. A lot of times I think it's just people don't even know what's out there. But I do feel like when you get the kids out there, the kids are interested in it. And, you know, around here, it's such an easy thing because, you know, it's not even like muddy trails. You're walking on like paved paths and stuff. But I always feel like I wish we could do, like, for years I ran a bike club, and it was actually kind of ecology with biking. But I would take kids out, and every Friday night, like a Friday afternoon, like year round, we did this. I'd roll the kids out, and their parents didn't know, because it was just my family that was running this through the park district. And we would go to places, and I would, like, a lot of times I'd just cut the kids loose. I'd be like, all right, you got 45 minutes. When you hear the whistle blowing, come back, and the kids, like, that's mind blowing for kids, like dump them off at a creek, and I'd be like, go have fun. And then, you'd find stuff, like we'd find, the impatiens that were the little exploding seed pods, and we could, like, have a little moment of that, or we, talk about these different things. But I do feel like there's such a need for kids to be out in nature. So this idea, like, where you're kind of like doing sort of nature on the fly, where you've actually got like a live person and kids can maybe interact and engage with that person, I think is really powerful. So were they doing it like on their iPhone? Like, were they kind of like filming it through Zoom, or how is that working?
Yeah, so it's dependent on the school, because some schools allow us to host the Zoom. Our preference is Zoom because you can moderate it, you can share screen, but some schools use Google Classroom. So we're kind of at the whim of the school, and then we'll have one person that's in like a controlled environment, usually at their home. And then we'll have a few people out in the field. So depending on what natural phenomenon we're studying, we'll just cut to it, right? So whether it's, with little ones reading a book about what's under the water in a pond, we'll have someone at the pond that's at the forest preserve closest to the school and say, okay, we're cutting to them because we actually have fish to look at. And then we'll just put the fish on the screen and talk about what they're doing. And it's just like these little moments that, taking the improv of teaching out in the forest or out in the field virtually is, you just kind of roll with the punches and say, oh my gosh, there's a hawk. We're going to just talk about that right now because that's in the screen with this naturalist. And then we kind of cut to those screens. So that's how we've done it. And sometimes there's some quirks along the way because that's just, it is what it is. But I think that the kids kind of appreciate the unexpected.
Totally.
And they enjoy it. We enjoy it too. It gets us out in the field doing what we love to do.
And even in the wintertime, you can discover a lot of stuff. Like I several years ago took a group of kids, and because I was doing so much time over at Whistler Woods, and we were out there hiking in the wintertime. And so one time we went out, and one of the kids found a young hawk that had clearly misjudged its flight trajectory and had hit a tree and killed itself. And it was like mummifying on this tree, kind of on this tree crag. And that was like, trust me, the kids were there that day. They were on point. Like, we were looking at that petrified hawk.
Yeah.
And it young, still in its kind of juvenile plumage. And then another time in the wintertime where we got out to the woods, and it was like, it turns out the snow it was really cold, and we only worked for a little while. We were just kind of pulling some brush, some invasive species. And then we decided that we were just going to go for a walk in the woods, and we were off trail there. And we followed a raccoon. We followed the tracks of a raccoon through the woods for, I don't know, like quite a long time. We were able to follow this for a good half an hour, and you could see where the raccoon had been scavenging for food. You saw where it had been digging. You saw how it worked its way down to the banks of the Calumet so that it could get water. And we kind of trepped through the woods and through the snow and stuff. And again, that was like one of those things where, like, it wasn't planned, it wasn't what we were doing, but trust me, the kids to this day, like 10 years later, will still tell me, like, oh, remember when we followed that raccoon through the woods? And of course you could see other tracks that had crossed it, deer tracks and squirrel tracks and bird tracks and things like that. But like, you're right, sometimes those just random events can be really powerful for kids. And it also kind of captures, like, look, we're not the only living things on this planet. It's not just us, right? There's other things that are out and about and active. We even saw mouse prints, which was cool. Like,
Nice.
little mouse prints in the snow, so I love that idea. I love the idea of doing sort of virtual field trips. But again, like, having those connections, like, you'd be doing this through the Forest Preserve District, or?
Correct.
So that takes a lot of resources and planning, right? So you have to kind of set it up. You got to make sure that you got those people at those locations, that your timing worked out and that kids can participate. So I love the fact that you guys are doing that. You guys are so, like, thank you so much for all of you people coming in and doing all these volunteering things too. Like, I love you, because I know, like, you guys have real lives, and we're so grateful for people who have experience and ideas and are willing to share like that. So thank you for that.
Yeah, Adam, Wayne Schimpf here. I don't know if you're familiar with my background, but back in the late 60s, I was the first naturalist in charge of teacher education for the district.
Oh, nice.
And also for the gentleman from Open Lands Project, I was the first director of environmental education for the Open Lands Project from 70 to 75. So Adam, I'm asking and wearing my hat of in charge of conservation education for the Boy Scouts. Have you ever considered offering any of the nature-based merit badges during COVID, now using your mix of in the field and cutting in and out and, so on like that? Because, I, in our conservation committee, really would like to explore some possibilities using your technique, there. And
Ye-
so that's something that I think I'd like to explore more. And then also, Jane, what you've got to do is to get your self together to offer a 3-hour graduate course on methods of teaching on the school site and in the community during COVID, and get together weekly, gatherings where the teachers partner with Colleen or Adam or Marianne, and do some of these things and try them out and so on, because that there would be a lot of teachers that are desperate for new techniques and new ideas and so on like that. So I don't know whether this is something that Michael could hook up through, his college or something like that. But I think that this would be a natural, outgrowth of this committee to, share with others and offer the teachers, college, graduate credit or in-service hours and so on towards recertification.
I
So
was just gonna say, like, just getting certification hours, like, that's such a pain in the butt when you're not in a school that does formal, like, training that way. Like, I'm always looking to pick up hours.
yeah, but I think that you should do the teaching. You should, I mean, you should just take the teachers through a bicycle ecology ride, and have them do that and so on. I mean, when I
You
was the
can still
first,
get credit for that, though. You can still get hours for presenting.
yeah. So, I mean, either way in that. So I think that what we've got to do is to quickly look at how we can get something put together for second semester to,
I'm open.
use some of these techniques and so on.
I also
And
think, like, just the chance of being able to brainstorm ideas. Like, I feel like so many of us are really in a vacuum. I mean, like, already teaching, you'd have a tendency to be in a vacuum because you're just in your little classroom or your little department. But I feel like, getting us, like, having those connections, I feel so isolated from my peers now. Like, I have no contact with other teachers, not even in my own school. I'm trying to, like, occasionally text, but we're not seeing each other. And there's none of that little brainstorming that goes on in the lunchroom or in the hallway, or, hey,
but
this
but
great, what are you doing, kind of type.
But see, I think what we could do would be to use this Calumet Nature Forum here as a launch pad to start feeling meeting that need, because some people haven't reached the conclusion that you have, that that's what they need and so on. So I think that if we offer that, and even if we only add, a few teachers to this process, it's a few more that are using this type of teaching technique this week as opposed to last week. And so I think that we've got to grab the resources, because Michael has assembled a very unique assemblage of resources here. And I think that we've got to also bring in somebody from the state education authorities, both in Illinois and Indiana, to get a feel of the unique community of people that care, about people learning in, about, and from the natural resource base of the region. So, yeah,
Yeah, we have such rich resources. Like, I
yeah,
really
yeah.
tundra, prairie, whether you want to show them some of the dune and swale ecology. We really didn't get much of a chance to do that in the past. And like, I know that that's something like the Calumet, like the Calumet Steward region, the Calumet initiative stuff, they do things on that. And I would love to like show that to my kids. And I haven't really had a chance to do that. I don't really, like, I need to know more about it, right? Like I know about it, but I don't know where exactly it is so I can show it to kids. So stuff like that, like I think it's so interesting. We've talked about like the movement of the shoreline of Lake Chicago and how that became like Michigan, you know, as the ice age melted, and like some of that ecology going on, and also about the biodiversity that we have around here. Like we have such amazing biodiversity in this region. And again, like the kids, you know, they don't know that resource, right? They're just not aware of it.
You got to get a copy of J. Harlan Bretz's parts 1 and 2 of the geology of the Chicagoland area.
I have one of those books.
You what?
So if I can insert myself here.
Sure, go ahead.
Before we start, because there's some really great ideas being shared, but before we start reinventing the wheel, I do want to let you know that there already exists 2 groups. One is specifically around Calumet, and it's called the Calumet Outdoors, and it meets twice a year to share ideas. And there are lots of people on it. It's directed by Mario Longoni, who's at the Field Museum. He's an anthropologist. So that's one option, is the Calumet Outdoors, is to just show up for those biannual meetings.
Is that something that we can like start creating a Google Doc where people can share that sort of stuff so we can use it as a resource? Like all of those little tips and tricks.
Well, I'm sure that if you contacted Mario, he would be more than happy to expand, talk with you, and Colleen, you could hook her up with Mario. So she,
Yeah, I'll put his email in the chat right now.
Thank you.
yeah, go ahead. I think he wanted to join us for this conversation because he was on the initial meeting with where this idea started back in November. And,
No, he appointed me.
oh, he did. Okay.
I'm the rep. Yeah.
Okay, good. I was hoping to say hello to him this morning. So, yeah.
So, Adam, could you give Lisa Downs your email address?
I'll type it into the chat menu.
Okay.
I love the fact that there's just like amazing brain trust that we're just kind of like sicking through your brains, like, yes, pulling these ideas out. You guys are so, I can't believe you guys are volunteering, giving your time. Thank you.
Well, okay, that's the thing, Michael, that we've got to capture here. Is this element of sharing the brain trust, as you so eloquently said. And then the other thing that the Cub Scout leader has so enthusiastically, Lisa Sawa Downs, said, because there's many other Scout leaders that are doing more or less, but the same type of thing with their Scouts and that. And if all the Scouts go to schools and so on, so that if we could somehow interface. And then the other element that we don't have in here is the work that Faith in Place is also doing through the faith-based institutions. And they have a great teen outreach program too. So I think that we have somehow got to incorporate them, because if you got a student that's a Scout and go to a faith-based institution that's connected with Faith in Place, you've got a triple whammy as a resource. And so,
Yeah, and I think I think Faith in Place is represented in the Calumet Outdoors, because we work with them a lot.
Yeah. So I think that they're a third element of being able to reach into the community with this same element of ecology. And then see the other thing that the underlying thing, that the birthplace of North American ecology is at the Indiana Dunes in the Calumet region. And so we have to acquaint the kids, with this, and then through my international program that, I always talk up the birthplace of, North American ecology is here, and the other part of the globe was over in Germany at the same time that Coles was writing. So anyhow, yeah,
I
there's,
was planning on doing the whole succession and stuff field trip last spring, and we ended up having to cancel it because of COVID. But like, I feel like that's another one, like, that's such a powerful thing. And again, it's such a close resource. It's just around the corner from my school. It's amazing what we have around here, between the history, like you said, of so much of ecology. There was so much interesting research that was going on in the, like 40s and 50s. I mean, there's cool stuff around here.
oh yeah, well, that's okay. It's this cool stuff, the mystery and so on, that the kids thrive on, but they don't have teachers like you that can ask the right questions to set up the discovery process.
Yeah, well, again, though, you need training, and that's something that I think, like, as teachers, we're oftentimes, like, wow, 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 wow. We talk a lot. I've been talking a lot in this meeting.
Well, anyhow, but you're pulling us all together. You're doing it. There's one thing that I want to share that some of you may want to pick up on. I mentioned that I'm part of this Caretakers of the Environment International, where we share globally. And what we've set up for this January 1st to the 8th of 2021 is a global Rainbow Walk Challenge. And it's a week-long opportunity, and where we're challenging anybody, especially high school kids, to go for a walk in your local environment or backyard, and then look for something that has color of the different parts of the rainbow, and then take a picture of it, and then also identify whether the object that you took the picture of is sustainable, and if so, why, or not sustainable, and how you could make it more sustainable. And then you can send the pictures and that to on Facebook, the CEI alumni team, or I can hashtag it to Rainbow Walk Challenge.
So it'd be like just hashtag Rainbow Walk. Okay, one word.
Rainbow Walk Challenge, one word.
So 2 W's, challenge. Okay, and that's through
That's
the
Caretakers of the Environment International, or the website caretakersforall.org.
Caretakersforall.org, you said?
Org, yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
I've got a student who's trying to get in, and she's having problems. So if I seem distracted for a couple seconds, I'm trying to like send her the links and stuff. So
Okay, go ahead.
like if I'm not giving you eye contact, it's not because
No. I understand we all multiple task. You're putting the information in another device and so on.
Yeah, and I feel like I want to get Vashti in here because she's a great kid. She's a freshman, and she's really curious and really engaged on this stuff. And I would love to have her present, like if you're okay with that.
Oh, sure. Go ahead. Hey, that's what we're all here for, is to empower the teens. They're the most important one to reach. So if you can get her to become a spark plug for you, turn her loose and that. So, yeah.
That's a goal. I mean, like, she was one of the kids I was like, I really want you to come to this, and she's here, but I just, again, like she can't get in, and like, all right, so let me go to my email and figure out if I can get this all to her and send her.
Yeah.
All right, so I have another couple of kids who I don't know if they're quite understanding that, like, they were supposed to come today. Maybe they're like, oh, I want to do this, but I'm like, okay, all right, sorry. So just out of curiosity, like, how this all just came out about this Wolf Lake initiative, like a bunch of people were together and we're like, hey, how do we like engage more people, or what was going on with that?
Michael, give her the history.
Well, okay, the history of it, we had the fourth annual Wolf Lake Watershed Advisory Committee meeting in, during normal times, it's an all-day conference on the first Friday
Of what month?
of
First Friday of every month?
November.
Oh, okay.
So, but this year, of course, we had to go to Zoom. And so we had 3 sessions, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And on the final session, we had, earlier in the year, we had awarded fellowships to 3 teachers in the Calumet region. And they're $1,000 fellowships. And the idea behind this was to, how do we get students to connect or reconnect with nature? And so
Okay.
just a second, let me admit somebody.
Okay. Is it Vashti? Or
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Yay.
Okay.
Vashti.
And,
Hey,
I'm so sorry I'm late.
It's okay. Thank you, honey. I'm so glad you made it. I'm sorry that there was confusion about how to click through here on your pumpkin. So I'm glad you're here.
well, thank you for joining us, because you're the reason we're all here, is to have you take over the future for us.
so as I was explaining, so this is kind of the start of it. And on the last session, I had each fellowship recipient talk about their program they had planned for this year, which they haven't actually done yet because of COVID. And so it was a discussion following that led to this meeting today. And so, and I'm kind of disappointed because none of the 3 teachers are with us today. But this is being recorded, and so this will be on Ollie's website. So anyone, so if you had, and there were several people that were planning on being here that didn't. Everybody, no, not everybody can come to a meeting that they want to attend. So I'm just going to let people know that this recording is available on our website, and then they can and they should do that if they plan on attending our next meeting, which would be the second Saturday in January, because we really should try to get out more teachers to this, and so I'm going to send I think a follow-up to today's meeting to those that were not able to make it, and just to advise them that the recording of this meeting will be available. And but then we should also, and maybe I don't know if it's time to do that, but we also should think about what we want to do at the next meeting. And so I'm open for discussions on that.
So if I could insert myself again, we have a network of teachers that's in formation around environmental education in general, and is focused on teaching during a pandemic. Right now, it's mostly Chicago public school teachers, and it's mostly grades 3 through 8, because that's who I work with. And it was we originally formed the network to keep teachers who the Field Museum has worked with in our partnership programs just in contact with one another. And the idea was to create a space for collaboration, sharing of materials and ideas. So again, if we don't want to reinvent the wheel, we already have some structures in place. And I'd be happy to invite some of those teachers to your next meeting if you like, but we also do have a network of schools that we work with that are working to collaborate, and most of them are in the Calumet region, although we have a few outliers in Washington Park.
Okay.
Well, I think that two things. Number one, that Michael, whether you could become a authorizer of 1 hour of professional development credit for either going back and reviewing and listening to this hour program, which would be one, and then also for each subsequent gathering that we have for the teachers could get an hour of credit for it. And then also I think that you may want to get sort of an ad hoc executive committee to help develop an agenda for January, February, at least for the next couple of monthly meetings, so that the teachers could know what they can expect to get out, and also what type of sharing ideas they can bring to each session. So I think that would provide some structure. And then also theirs and Colleen and the Forest Preserve people can take it back to their bosses, and here's what we did, and here's how it's going to help us, my participation, increase numbers of visitors and so on to their programs and resources.
Yeah, I can share the link to everyone here, and you can just pass it on, Colleen, to your group. I was thinking, but so who would like to plan the next meeting? We need a teacher on that. So
My direction.
So-
So I have a question for you. Is the focus of this is about the specific focus here is teacher focused and student focused, correct?
correct.
Okay, so
Just not teachers and students, but group leaders, youth group leaders.
right,
and-
okay. Right, because I don't want to leave the Boy Scouts or other, community groups that might want to be participatory. Okay, so it's about youth-oriented educators. Is that a good way of phrasing it?
Informal and formal.
Okay, and then is the point then okay, and we're aiming for, what was the date? January, what was the follow-up?
It would be the second Saturday in January.
It'd be the 9th.
Okay, the 9th of January and the time would be 9 a.m.
Okay. I will
Yeah.
tell you, if you want kids involved, it's better if you can do it at 10. Just throwing that out there. 10 and 9 a.m. is really tough for like the high school crowd.
Oh, that's
Especially
right.
on Saturday.
Noon is even better in my house.
I would agree. Noon is even better. I'm being totally honest. And now that we're on COVID time, kids they're really struggling to get up at 8 a.m. I mean, there's a lot of brain research that says the teens are already like, they have that night shift that goes on, or like they're active in the prowl hours. And like, I just feel like if we could push this later, if you want kids
Well,
here, you need to
See,
do it later.
that's not up to me. It's up to you. I mean, whoever's going to be working on this, it's up to you. I just suggest that we should keep the date the same.
Yeah, I don't have
The second Saturday, and then you could, and whoever plans this, and it's not going to be me because I'm not a teacher for one thing. And so I think Lisa and Jane should be at least two of the people planning the next meeting. And I just want to say, Lisa and I've known each other for a long, long time. And she is the most active scout leader in the Calumet region that I've run into. And I just have
you don't know Troop 606 that my son was involved in. I'm just,
so
Scouts are pretty darn active. Like, A good
So,
troop.
Lisa, can you help out?
I unmuted myself. Possibly, I'm not quite sure. For me, this meeting, I appreciate, Michael, you bringing everybody together because I think it's so important to put a face with what resources are available. So, you know, while people were introducing themselves, I was writing them down so that I had them in my head so that when we are trying to complete adventures for scouting, I know who I can tap on to say, hey, this person would work for this. So for me, you know, for scouting, they don't want to hear from me all the time. It's very good for us to be able to bring in somebody else with information to share that with the scouts. So I appreciate you, Michael, for bringing everybody together. I would encourage you, Michael, to keep doing that. To, you know, if you are the lead for this for next month, and each one of the people that are here today could take a month to you know, provides what they're doing, I think that would be great, rather than having, you know, Jane have to all of a sudden take this on or myself take this on as another project. I'm not sure if I can commit to that right now. I just think it's great, you know, again, to hear from Adam and everything that he was doing is great resource for all of us. I would love to hear what other people are doing, just so that when we need to find a person, we can find that person. Is it?
Okay.
And again, we have a group, so I don't want to organize another group. So I will,
Right.
you know, step back, but I do have teachers that I work with that are trying to get something very similar going. And I'm the point person for that. So, you know,
Right. So if that's something next month that, you know, Colleen, you could present what you're doing, that would be helpful to everybody. Does that make sense? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine. I can show, I just don't want to be like, you know, organizing two separate groups that
Right.
are
Most
myself
definitely.
nutty.
Most definitely. I don't think most definitely.
Yeah, Lisa?
Yes.
Wayne Schimpf here. In my capacity as chairman of the Conservation Committee for PTAC, I would love to talk to you more extensively offline about this. You said adventure for scouting activities and that, because we see that the future of growing the conservation movement is to introduce the conservation concepts through Cub Scouting and that. And
Oh, I totally agree. I am more than happy. I've typed my email in the bottom there. And thank you, Michael. PAC 773, we really work very hard to be out in the community, to take them to, we have, you know, at every possible hike we can go to once a month, and to be planting trees and doing cleanups. And
well, we need to get you clean, Amelia.
I'm Queen Mama Lisa at sbcglobal.net. Thanks. When I set up that email, I never thought I would ever have to share it with anybody. That was a lot of years ago.
Don't change it. Okay. Yeah. So Lisa, thanks for what you're doing in that, and hopefully we can bottle and share it to other Cub Scout leaders in that, because
Most definitely. And right. And so I am in contact with quite a few other scout groups here in the area, along with Girl Scouts. I mean, let's not forget.
okay, well, no, because the
huge
Girl Scouts also have a unique initiative too in that. So have you gone on scouting.org/conservation to see the new Scout movement, their national new conservation program?
No, I will do that. I'm right. See, there's another resource that I'm not aware of. I'm writing it down. I have a whole list of things to check into. So scouting.org/conservation.
Conservation, yeah, there's a whole new initiative that have just come out, and we're looking to launch this all throughout the, like I said, the counties and everything like that. So, and we also hope to become the experiential arm for the classrooms also inside this region, and also the various houses of worship and that the scouts have to follow the 12th Scout law, which is a scout is reverent in
Right,
that.
right,
So-
right. I also serve as the religious emblem chair for our pack. So we right now have 8 scouts that are working on their religious emblems. So that would be a great connection to do that as well. I wrote that down too.
Yeah, okay, Lisa. Yeah.
Great.
So,
Yep. So my email's out there. If anyone wants to shoot me an email, I'm happy to work with whoever, and that would be great. Thank you.
yeah, Lisa, yeah. So, okay, we've got it. Michael, you've opened a Pandora box here. I hope we can get a few handles on it and deliver.
Yeah, and I think it's important that that those here today can reach out to their teacher friends, colleagues, and so we can get more involved. And and I don't want to leave Jane all by herself is planning for the next meeting. So who else would like to just work with her on this?
I'm okay with actually doing it, but I just want to make sure that I like know exactly what the goals are. And I want to sit down with you, Michael, and maybe like pick your brains a little bit. I will tell you one thing I see as a real need is I feel like I really want to create this Google Doc where we have connections and we talk about some of these resources because I mean, Wayne, you've tossed out a ton. Colleen's talked out a ton. Adam, you've tossed out a ton of ideas. And I feel like these are all things that would be really cool to find out more information on. And I just feel like, you know, like oftentimes I'm doing my planning at like midnight. Like that's not when I'm going to try reaching out to people, but I want to have somewhere that I can go and get information. Like, you know, I have 10 minutes here. I have half an hour here. I'm over at my mom's house and taking care of her. And then I'm going to look something up on the internet, you know? And I do feel like, you know, like having a place because there's obviously, I don't want to, like, as Colleen says, I don't want to reinvent the wheel. If we already have some really cool programs out there, like the idea is like, well, let's access those programs.
well, that's the key thing is being able to access it. And I think your student who just jumped on has got to see that there's a lot of exciting potential for you because you're gutsy and want to know. See, the one exciting thing about you is you don't know what you can't do. So let's get her on the committee with us.
Solomon's with us too down here. I don't know if you guys noticed, but Solomon joined us. So we got 2 people here, but and we've got some more. We got some more kids who
I think that have a student rep and so on like that, you know, on this and everything, because I think that they could excitingly say, well, out of this whole smorgasbord of activities, let's do this. The main thing is that we're doing something and the kids are engaged and the adults can worry about sequencing it and put it in all that kind of stuff. But the important thing is to get them out doing. And even if they do it wrong, they learn something. But the goal is to have them do it.
That you learn more from your mistakes than you learn.
Well,
So in the chat there, Gloria has stepped up to help out as well to set up the meeting. So I don't know if, I really think it would be helpful if everybody put their emails maybe in the chat so that, you know, we can.
Well, Michael, can you just send out our emails to everybody?
I'll send out, yes, I'll send out emails because what's important to meetings like this is not necessarily the meeting itself, but it's the follow-up.
Most definitely, definitely.
And we just have to keep, we'll follow up and I think our goal is probably maybe to expand this. And I don't know how many months we'll be doing this, but I think we're going to at least be doing it for 6 more months. And maybe, you know, by that time we'll figure out, you know, how to reach people virtually.
Michael, I think you've got a good opportunity to get some quick grants out, to get some funding sources for you. And also possibly get somebody to help administer this program other than an overworked you.
Yeah, well, I definitely don't, I'm not qualified to really do this.
No, but you can act as the mix master. You can act as
Well,
the host.
I'm the facilitator.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And I would agree. I don't think that this is something that is going to end after 6 months. Michael, I don't think you're underestimating what you've done by bringing everybody together to share their resources will continue after 6 months. Maybe after, we can be outside, but then still be able to know who to contact for specific projects that we're working on. I think that is key.
Because I've talked with Tony Preckwinkle, about this type of networking and so on like that. And I know that her teacher hat would be very excited to, know about this, and some of the other county commissioners would also love to hear from some of the Jane students in that to go to a county board meeting and talk about the resources and how the Forest Preserve District is partnering and so on like that. So I think that we've got to have the high school kids become the community spokesperson, for this effort and everything.
I would agree with that. I feel like the piece that, like, if we want kids to become leaders, we have to give them opportunities to do leadership.
Well, that's what Jane, you've got the kids and so on that can do that. And
Right.
I'd be more, because that's what I've done for the past 34 years with my caretakers of the environment. And I'd suggest that you Google that. And again,
Finish up here, I'm going to be like typing away, getting some stuff done. But I feel like, like for Vashti and for Solomon and my other students, like they, for them to connect and engage, like if I have these resources, now I know that there's things I can reach out to. There's people I might be able to connect with. There's programs that already exist that'll support this. It's allowing the opportunity to occur. So I really Michael and all the rest of you guys, thank you for allowing us to come together. Again, the next steps though is how do we then move this forward so it's meaningful and it's not just a one-off thing where we're like, oh yeah, hey, we talked about cool things. How do we make it so that it's powerful and it has resonance and keeps on going? And I want already I could see, if we're going to bring a group of kids together, we need to have some ideas of the ways that we're going to throw questions out at them, break them into small groups and have them kind of dialoguing with each other. But it's got to be facilitated because it's really hard on Zoom. If kids don't know each other, if they're not in classes together, it's very hard sometimes to have kids feel comfortable with that. Vashti and Solomon are just freshmen. And they're stepping it up,
Well, we should ask.
You're fortunate in having them as freshmen because, see, high school students have one nasty characteristic that comes out at the worst time. You get them all in leadership and they know who to call. They're not afraid to talk in public. And then they have the audacity to graduate and leave you high and dry.
So I think maybe we might want to ask Solomon what he thinks about all of this.
Well, kind of he stepped in late, so Solomon's like, ah.
Well, I bet you he's got something to say. Come on, Solomon.
I feel like this is all really nice. We're getting a bunch of communities together to do something great or good for the environment. So we could
go ahead.
Michael, I have a question. How committed are people to the second Saturday meeting day? Because Eggers, for its existence as a restoration site, has held its restoration work days on the second Saturday of the month. The reason I'm here today and not out at Eggers is because of COVID, and COVID has shut down restoration work days. So if you are going to hold meetings on the second Saturday of the month, I would love to attend, but Eggers is not going to be, I can't abandon my work day.
Well, then how about going to the third then? In that sense, it's just a throw out unless Michael, you, because I think that having hers there is important.
Yeah, I agree. So if the third Saturday of the month is okay, then we'll let Jane figure out the time.
Okay.
And
We'll tell you, students Vashti and Solomon, would this be easier for you if it was later in the day and not at 9 a.m.?
Yes, because I usually forget by that time. Like by that time, I'll already be awake at like 10.
Okay, so 10 o'clock.
Ye-
Well,
Yeah, later, because sometimes I just don't hear my alarm.
well,
Yeah.
and also I think at 10 o'clock for the salaried people that are donating their time on Saturday to get them 10 o'clock, I think would be a good trade-off, factoring in team psychology and the overworked, underpaid public employee to go about their day. But I think that this is an exciting, venture, and really we should bring in some possibly people from a foundation or two to listen to what we're doing, so that they can give us some advice in that. So I think we got a unique tool here. A resource that we can package and market and to empower teens.
yeah, is there a speaker we have in mind that we might want to bring in for 10 minutes or to talk about whatever?
I think that Jane and the committee, I wouldn't mind serving on the committee too, and that. So I think if we have a meeting early in January to sketch out an agenda, and we can invite somebody to more specifically give us some examples. Maybe Brian could share a technique or two or something like that. Or some of the other resource people could be asked to come in. So I've got to leave here very shortly to meet with a Eagle Scout working on a conservation project where he's preparing bird cages for Brookfield Zoo to help reintroduce back into the wild the Guam kingfisher to an island in Micronesia. And that, so he's
That's why they're highly endangered, right? Those
yeah. So he has designed the transportation cages from the breeding population from Brookfield Zoo back to Micronesia, and that. So he's finalizing this project with the zoo, and hopefully I can get Ryan to join us in that, even though he's not from the Calumet area, but he's got well, that's just one of the many scouts that are working on various parts of this puzzle of how to save planet Earth. And that, so.
Okay, how about the three of us getting together on maybe January 2nd?
January
Okay.
2nd. Okay.
Okay, send out a reminder. I'll try and have Nadia Young, our teen multimedia sharing coordinator, and that she had to take her dog to vet this morning for an emergency thing, or Nadia would have been on, but she's texted me back and forth saying that she apologizes and that. So I think that we could give Nadia.
Uh-oh, did we lose Wayne?
He froze.
Sorry, that was my phone.
Yeah, okay. So, okay, well, hey, thank you all for joining. I've been at this since I took my first reading the landscape course from May Thielgard Watts out at the Morton Arboretum in 1953 on reading the landscape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And hopefully we can get some more students in for the next meeting. I think that might be a priority. But I would like to reach out to more youth group leaders and teachers as well. So, and we can just work on that.
Yeah, I think if we're gonna do this, we need to get started on that pretty soon because a lot of people are gonna be going on break in the next week. And if we're talking about starting to get this going for like early January, like, ooh, like this needs to be.
No,
Well, Jane, when would you
no,
want, when would you want to meet? What would be the best time for you?
Love to like pick your brains like in the next week if we're gonna get this rolling.
Well, you name the date and time.
All right, so let me pull up on my calendar, which is surprisingly packed considering because it's going into our finals week. Maybe could we do something maybe on the 16th? Would that be doable?
Well, Michael, how's that?
I have,
It'd be December.
I have a meeting on the 16th. I'm just going to try to find out when it is on the 16th. Just
Okay. For me, anytime like after 2 o'clock, I'm out of class. So I'm teaching through 2 o'clock.
okay.
I'm free. So
I think 3 o'clock.
okay. And then will you send out the email alert for us so that we get
Yes.
the okay.
So
Who else wants to be Jane, Michael, I? Who else would want to join? Solomon or just the three of us, or maybe Brian or somebody like that, or just the three of us could work it out.
I think for this first one, if we could have the adults meet, and then I would love to have like Solomon and Vashti and a couple of maybe my other students, and I would like to make some contact with some people in the area, some teachers maybe over at Washington High School, which is in the Calumet region, and maybe over at Eisenhower High School and some other schools that are in this area. A lot of my kids who were working for years in Whistler Woods have graduated or are still at Eisenhower High School. So there's a little bit of a connection already. Those kids have some,
Okay.
really Forest Preserve.
Well,
And maybe
if
I
you
could
could, if you could get some CPS people, then what we ought to do is to contact the Director of Community Relations for CPS to let this person know. I don't happen to know that person, but I think, yeah.
there is,
Yeah.
we had scheduled to participate. She didn't show up, but she's the administrator at CPS in charge of science. Melissa is the one that suggested her to me, and she was scheduled to attend this meeting today. So I'll reach out to her.
Yeah.
And she's the one that I think would be really great
Oh, yeah.
to have. And I've never met her, but Melissa suggested her. So I'll just, but
Yeah.
everyone that was invited to the meeting today will be getting a follow-up report from me. And it will involve some of the things that we discussed today. But it will also tell them about the scheduled meeting for January the 6th.
December 16th at 3 p.m.
January 16th. You're making the same mistake I made. So it's January the 16th at 10 a.m.
Okay, January, but we're gonna have, Jane, we're gonna have our planning session December 16th, aren't we? 3
Yeah, we're talking
p.m.
about December 16th at 3 p.m. having our meeting.
Yeah, okay. And then the full meeting is January 16th at 10
We love the
a.m.
16th.
Yeah,
Yeah.
16 is fine. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Sweet 16, I know, long time ago.
My students, Vashti had to run to the bathroom, and
Yeah.
for Solomon, like I'm gonna be picking your brains, guys. Like we got to come up with some ideas here, and I think Vashti's back. Okay, so we definitely, there's some things we can do that we can start coming up with some ideas, and I want to we need to brainstorm off of you, like what sounds interesting to you, what to you is appealing, because I think that we want you guys to feel like you're part and parcel of this process, and so when we get back together again, Mr. Schimpf and Mr. Boost and I will kind of meet and then see if we can plot out some general guidelines of how we can help teachers and kids to kind of become engaged with nature in this area, because we have such a biodiverse region. We were just talking about this, like some of my students, we know like this is a cool place on the planet. Not that, there's cool things everywhere you go, but sometimes I think we overlook the fact that we have so much exciting things happening right here at the south tip of Lake Michigan, just because of this confluence of ecosystems. So it's powerful stuff. And like, we'll take that and then I'm going to come back to you guys and see if we can come up with some things with kids. So, okay. All right.
Yeah.
So
Okay, I've got to go. I got to
Okay.
meet the scout at
We,
10:30.
I want to, yes, I
Again,
want to thank
Michael?
I want to thank everybody for showing up. We'll see everybody on the 16th, and there will be more of us, I'm sure. And
Okay.
Solomon, I'll see you on the 16th, right? January 16th at 10 a.m.
Last
And
year, maybe, right? We'll get you guys giving
Okay,
us.
Merry Christmas, Happy New
Okay,
Year, Happy
yes.
Hanukkah, Happy
yes,
Kwanzaa, whatever is in your life. Enjoy the rest of the new year, and welcome to the new year.
and
Okay.
stay safe.
Okay, Michael.
Michael.
Thank you.
Thank you for helping me connect. We
Bye-bye.
ought to get Bill Smith back involved here, because I know
Yeah.
that Bill. Yeah, invite Bill to join, because he would really enjoy this.
He was Ollie's first president. You know
Yeah,
that, Wayne?
well, I know that, yes, because he and I were teachers back in the day, and that's when he offered his environmental science course for CPS out of Lincoln Park Zoo.
Yes. And we would come down and did some cleanup work and
Yeah.
restoration.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So give Bill a call and tell him that Wayne wants Bill to be back in here.
Demands that
So,
Wayne demands that he be back. Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
that's right.
Nice meeting you, Jane.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
too.
We'll
Thank
see you again on the 16th.
Hey,
Okay,
Jane, you're a breath of fresh air and that. So,
thanks.
yeah, remember, Jane, don't take no for an answer.
I know.
Take care.
I just feel
And
like,
remember, the answer to a lot of environmental problems are green side up.
yeah, there you go. There's a good response. I feel like, it's so important. Like, I think, and the kids want to become stewards of their planet. They want to change things, and
Yeah.
like, they don't want to become jaded and give up. So,
Yeah.
we're
Okay.
doing this. Michael, you're going to
I gotta go.
email addresses and contacts, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Take care.
Okay. Bye.